Early calls for reform. As you have seen, by the 1300s the church was beginning to lose some of its moral and religious standing. Many Catholics, including clergy, criticized the corruption and abuses that plagued the church. They challenged the authority of the Pope. Some began to question church teachings and express new forms of Christian faith. Reformers wanted to purify the church, not destroy it. By challenging the church's practices and teachings, however, they helped pave the way for dramatic changes of the Reformation. In this section, you will meet 4 of these early reformers. John Wycliffe, about 1330-1384. John Wycliffe was a scholar in England. Wycliffe challenged the church's right to money that it demanded from England. When the Great Schism began, he publicly questioned the Pope's authority. He also attacked indulgences and immoral behavior on the part of the clergy. During the Middle Ages, church officials tried to control interpretations of the Bible. Wycliffe believed that the Bible, not the church, was the supreme source of religious authority. Against church tradition, he had the Bible translated from Latin into English so that common people could read it. The Pope accused Wycliffe of heresy, or opinions that contradict church doctrine. Wycliffe's followers were persecuted, and some of them were burned to death. After his death, the church had his writings burned. Despite the church's opposition, Wycliffe's ideas had a wide influence. John Huss, about 1370 to 1415. John Huss was a priest in Bohemia, today's Czech Republic. He read Wycliffe's writings and agreed with many of his ideas. Huss criticized the vast wealth of the church and spoke out against the Pope's authority. The true head of the church, he said, was Jesus Christ. Huss wanted to purify the church and return it to the people. He called for an end to corruption among the clergy. He wanted both the Bible and the Mass to be offered in the common language of the people instead of Latin. In 1414, Huss was arrested and charged with heresy. In July 1415, he was burned at the stake. Like Wycliffe, Huss had a major influence on future reformers. Martin Luther would later say that he and his supporters were all Hussites without knowing it.
Catherine of Siena, 1347 to 1380. Catherine of Siena was an Italian mystic. She was extraordinarily devoted and felt that she had a direct experience of God. Even as a child, she had visions of Jesus and promised to be his bride. Catherine spent long hours deep in prayer and wrote many letters about spiritual life. She also involved herself in church affairs. Her pleas helped convince Pope Gregory XI to move the papacy back to Rome from Avignon. Later she traveled to Rome to try to end the Great Schism. Catherine was a faithful Catholic, and in 1461 the Church declared her a saint. Yet her example showed that people could lead spiritual lives that went beyond the usual norms of the Church. She and other mystics emphasized personal experience of God more than formal observance of church practices. This approach to faith helped prepare people for the ideas of the Reformation.
Desiderius Erasmus, 1466 to 1536. Desiderius Erasmus was a humanist from Holland. A priest and devoted Catholic, he was one of the most outspoken figures in the call for reform. In 1509, Erasmus published a book called The Praise of Folly. Folly means foolishness. The book was a sharply worded satire of society, including abuses by clergy and church leaders. Erasmus argued for a return to simple Christian goodness. Erasmus wanted to reform the church from within. He angrily denied that he was really a Protestant. Yet perhaps more than any other individual, he helped to prepare Europe for the Reformation. His attacks on corruption in the church contributed to many people's desire to leave Catholicism. For this reason, it is often said that Erasmus laid the egg and Luther hatched it. We have 3 vocabulary words today. The first one is heresy, beliefs that contradict the official teachings of a religion or church. One who holds such beliefs is called a heretic. Doctrine, the official teachings of a religion or church. And mystic, a person who is devoted to religion and has spiritual experiences.